Shalom Israel. First, I want to start by giving all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash, double honors unto the elders, apostles, and bishops of GMS Great Millstone, who rule well, teach, and edify in Shalom. Unto you, hopefully, elect Akim and Akwat in his household of faith. My name is Yeshaya. Yahweh to make an edifying video on his 1 Corinthians 5th chapter and 17th verse. And it reads, "Therefore, if any man be in Hamashiach, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." Right? And I was meditating on this precept, thinking about like a spiritual chef. The Lord gives you wisdom, the ingredients to be able to, yield peaceable fruit, yield good fruit, right? The Lord gives you the resources, the tools, the right type of cutlery to be able to give out good fruits. And then when it says all things are become new, before, when you was in the world, you wasn't even in the kitchen. You wasn't cooking nothing. You were not cooking, right? You come into this truth and you start understanding, the ways of this truth and start walking in ways of righteousness. You're cooking on a low level, when you first walk in. That faith is strong, but, you still got to know how to go about. It's like the Waffle House. Some things might taste good. Other things might only be good when you drunk. But it's like you. At the end of the day, we're striving to make to build good fruit to the Lord, because we're ultimately presenting it to the Lord. But not only do we present these fruits to the Lord, they're displayed in all aspects of our lives, right? So as you progress, the Spirit gives you, the right type of ingredients, to cook and be able to produce good fruits. The Spirit will bless you to have the know about, to know how to go about shit. To know how to, deal with certain things, to know how to be righteous, right? Because righteousness is ultimately what yields those good fruits. Those are the fruits that we present to the Lord that he finds pleasure in, right? When we're rehearsing the righteous acts to the best of our abilities, when we're showing faith and love towards him, right? Israel has displayed such a disdain towards the Lord, like a smoke in his nostrils. Israel has done so much bullshit, But the Lord has given us the Spirit to understand who he is again. The Lord broke that seal, and now we know who the Lord really is, right? And we're trying to serve him to the best of our abilities. We're trying to do everything that we can. And not only that, taking it back a level, that good fruit is able to be displayed in all aspects of your life. At work, Israel has traits of hard workiness, especially the Northern Kingdom. Northern Kingdom work hard as fuck, And, people, when you leave work, people be like, oh, that's a good guy. They can tell that you got a good spirit on you. Sometimes you have certain people walk up to you like you have a beautiful spirit, or you have good energy to you, or you're just, some type of light. And the scriptures talk about that, shine your light among men, roughly paraphrasing it. It's in the Matthews, right? Talking about how you got to be that light unto the world. Because what are we? We're the children of light. Yahweh Shem Yahushua has blessed us with his knowledge, which it really enlightened us. It quickened us. It brought us back to life. And now, people can tell through the Spirit who you are through the Spirit. They can tell you're a man of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. They can tell you got a certain energy to you, right? That's why when bros, walk into a room, it's all of a sudden the whole room moving. All the heads are snatching a little bit. And you might not even have nothing extravagant on, man. You might not have no crazy outfit. You might got some boots, jeans, and a shirt. No watch, no rings, chilling. But everybody just got to look, man, because they can tell by that spirit. They're drawn to that spirit, like moths to a light, because at the end of the day, they're sitting in darkness and you walk in like this display of light, and that's a true effect of righteousness. That's what it does. That's those good fruits, man. Because when you're, doing righteous things, it displays all throughout your life. If you're, doing righteous things towards your body, you're using that recipe, you're cooking up good fruits, you're going to see it on your body. You're going to be healthier. You ain't going to get sick as much, right? You going to ain't going to have all them damn cricks and cracks and shit, right? While the rest of the world's is stuffing down Twinkies and Dum-Dums and shit, you out here, messing with the herbs. Getting into more holistic things, getting into the Lord's medicines. Everybody popping ibuprofens like they're motherfucking Tic Tacs. You out here messing with the black seed oils, the oregano oils, right? Getting proper sleep and hydration, right? And at the end of the day, Satan's a dickhead, He's like that one Mario character that be throwing the hammers and shit, trying to get past the level. This motherfucker throwing like about 10 hammers at a time, but the Lord gives us the spirit to be able to endure through that. That's why the scriptures say, endure hardness as a faithful soldier of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right? It's our duty. And not only that, being a soldier, what do we get? Ephesians, the 6th chapter, talking about that spiritual armor. We got everything that we need to be able to fight off these things, man. So at the end of the day, we have all the tools. Right now we just gotta, yield that fruit to the Lord continually. Right? Reading on in the 18th verse, and all things are of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, who hath reconciled us to himself by Hamashiach. Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. I'm gonna read that again. Salakia. All things are of the Lord, who hath reconciled us to himself by Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, and hath given to us the ministry of reconciliation. The ministry of reconciliation. Let's get that word reconciliation. Ministry of reconciliation. Right?
Strong's G 2643, katalage. Katalage.
Right? Restoration to favor. And that's a second definition. In the first definition, exchange. What do we exchange? Right? Ultimately, the Lord possesses us no matter what, no matter how you feel about it. But at the end of the day, now the Lord gives us a spirit and we exchange in good fruits. We give the Lord back. Bros talk about we do spiritual bartering with the Lord. Right? We trade. The Lord gives us these things. The Lord gives us this peace. The Lord gives us these blessings, and we give him back the faith. We give him back the constant praising of his name, which is so important. Right? Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, the true names of so-called God and Jesus Christ, who the world ignorantly calls. Right? We constantly praise his name. We're saying up prayers. We're rehearsing the righteous acts. We're doing his work. Right? The ministry of reconciliation, this ministry, right? This ministry of restoration, trying to get Israel back in the right spot, calling the elect, right? Because ultimately 2/3 are going to have to die, but they will be reborn in the kingdom. This ministry of reconciliation is all called out to the elect, the 1/3, the elect of the elect, the 144,000 ruling class of Israel, who we're calling out to, right? So that's that on that, but when I'm talking about peaceable fruits, like the Lord gives you a recipe to be able to yield these things. Right? And you'll be able to see that display all throughout your life. And from there, I want to get that Proverbs 29:2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. So when the righteous are in authority, when you're walking in ways of righteousness, things will rejoice. People will rejoice. A righteous ruler. What are you a ruler of? You're a ruler of your house. You're a ruler of, your rib, your seeds, right? The Lord gives you the knowledge to be able to walk in ways of righteousness, and your house will be rejoicing of that. How to treat your wife better, how to treat your seeds better, how to treat your animals better. Your animals do good. I'm a young brother. I'm walking around and I'm learning from my beloved brothers, and they're teaching me these things, and I'm seeing the way that they treat them. You got a brother out there, he cooks for his animals every day. Every single day, they get like nice little chicken rice, get some good water. You walk into the bro's crib and you think that he's cooking up something for the bros. Nah, man, that's going straight to the dogs. and they healthy as a motherfucker. Them dogs is healthy, real healthy, man. And that's righteousness for you, man. Ways of righteousness yield those type of fruits. And the Lord likes seeing those type of things. Because what is that an example of? That's an example of righteous judgment. In things, there's a right and a wrong. Most decisions you make. Motherfucker come at you some type of way. You either gonna snap on them or you gonna let them have it, and you gonna keep on with your day. You gonna eat some bad food, or you gonna eat some fucked up, or eat some good food. Or you got a fucking soda, Coca-Cola, or you got spring water. What are you gonna drink? We are trying to achieve, our best in doing the right thing as much as we can, most of the time. All right, we're still in this fuck up flesh, man. That's why the scriptures talk about it from Apostle Paul, I wretched man, But at the end of the day, we're fighting that uphill battle to do things right. And you can see that display in your life. The way bros, move out in their workspace. People leave their work and they're like, man, that's one of the hardest working people I ever met. Things like that. They ain't going to work and going full, Israelite mode. Like, you gonna fucking die, you gonna fucking die, you gonna fucking die. Let not that left hand know what that right hand doeth. And that ultimately goes back to being blameless, right? They see men like this, and then they see him in the highways and byways. They're like, these are upright men. These truly probably are the men of the Lord, which we know we are. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, which has blessed us with this knowledge, right? At the end of the day, but the world will see it too, and they won't believe, because not everyone's meant to believe. Many are called, few are chosen. But at the end of the day, this is the rehearsing the righteous acts, these good fruits that the Lord likes seeing us do. These are examples of righteous judgment, of knowing how to control, knowing how to do things the right way, even in the most fucked up, wicked ass, captivity we've been in. Right? We know how to go about. We know how to have judgment. So when the kingdom comes and where we're changed into an estate where we can do things perfectly all of the time and not sin again, that's what we're awaiting. We were awaiting to be one of those men. Right? We're waiting to have that spirit to be part of those 144,000, Lord willing. But that carries me to my next point, and it's Peter's 3 and 14, Slakia. Yeah, actually, I'll start at 13. It says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for a new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. That's what we're looking forward to. That's what the rehearsing of our righteous acts, that's what we're trying to achieve. As it says in Joshua 1 and 9, you keep this book by you, you'll be successful in all your ways. And the ultimate success is really enduring past Jacob's trouble, not bowing the knee to Esau, continuing that faith through the Lord and making it, getting that crown. That's what the scriptures talk about in 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, how we be at those that beateth not the air. Right? We're not out here, doing pointless things. We understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a incorruptible, right? If these people try to achieve a corruptible, we're trying to get an incorruptible crown, right? And that's all through the actions that we do now. These actions are important. These actions are accounted for. The Lord searches the heart of men. The Lord knows your heart. The Lord knows your mind. He knows what the fuck you're going to do. He knows what you have done. He knows what you will do. And that's heavy, right? So the position that you're in, think about the shit that you do. Hebrews 12 and 2, looking unto the author and finisher of our faith, Yahushua Mashiach. All right? That's so important to look unto him because he's an example of perfection, right? And these are the things, man. This is part of diligence. It's hard to do the hard things. Like, duh, you know what I'm saying? It's easier said than done, though. It's hard to do the hard things. The hard things are most of the time the things that you need to be doing. A good diet, getting up and going for a walk, stretching, dieting. That's, for the body, for your family and shit. Taking the kids out, making sure they eating right, doing right, giving them righteous judgment. Being good to the house, your house. And not only that, the ministry, studying, rehearsing these righteous acts, being in these scriptures day in, day out, being in the spirit. The scriptures talk about show up at the Lord's gates daily. All of that is part of that diligence that make our calling and election sure. And there are many more things too. All right. 14th verse. Wherefore, beloved, seeing that ye look for such things, be diligent that ye may be found of him in peace, without spot and blameless. Just like that. Be diligent so that you be found without spot and blameless. These are things that lead to blamelessness. Who can judge a truly righteous man? When you're doing things the right way. And that's why we got to strive to move in the right spirit, man. Because righteousness bears good fruits. The Lord loves those good fruits. We spiritually cooking right now. The Spirit gives us these ingredients to know about, to how to do it. Right? Now it's just up to doing it and consistently doing it. But hey, man, I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to lastly give all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Akakwadash, Shalom.